There are certain mistakes that people don't recognize as mistakes until they reach the very end of retirement. Not because the warning signs weren't there, but because life kept moving, routine stayed comfortable, and what started as intention slowly turned into a habit. And here's the part that makes this so difficult. The biggest retirement regrets aren't always financial. They're the ones people only see clearly in hindsight, when there's less time to do anything about it. So in this video, I want to walk you through 5 regrets that consistently come up when people look back on their retirement years. Not so you feel uneasy, but so you can recognize them early and avoid them entirely. Because the goal of retirement isn't just to stop working, it's to build a life you actually want to live. And one of the smartest ways to do that is to understand what people wish they had done differently before you get there. So let's dive in. The first regret, and by far the most common, is this: wishing they had lived a life that was true to themselves, not one that's shaped by expectations, pressure, or comparison. When people look back, they often realize how many dreams were quietly abandoned, not because they were impossible, but because they felt inconvenient or really risky at the time. It's easy to slide into this without even noticing. Careers were chosen because they looked respectable. Homes were bought because they matched a certain image that we see. Your lifestyle was created because it felt normal for someone at that stage of life. Over time, these decisions compound, and suddenly decades have passed living a version of life designed for approval rather than for fulfillment. And what makes this so difficult to recognize is that nothing feels obviously wrong in the moment. You're doing what you're supposed to do. You're responsible, you're providing, you're checking all the boxes. But if you fast forward 20 or 30 years, a lot of people realize they built a life that looked good on paper, but didn't feel like their own. And that's a very hard realization to come to when time is no longer as flexible as it once was. Designing a meaningful retirement requires courage. It means asking uncomfortable questions now instead of wishing you had done it later. Now, regret number 2, I see a lot in the comments of a number of my videos. Hard work isn't the problem. Losing balance is. And one of the most painful realizations that people express is recognizing how much of their life was consumed by work. Not because they loved it, but because they didn't know how to step away from it. Work has a way of expanding endlessly. It starts small, staying a little later at the office, saying yes to one more responsibility, putting off a trip until next year. And those decisions feel reasonable at the time. But over decades, they quietly reshape your life. I've had conversations with people who can clearly see the trade-offs in hindsight: the missed time with family, missed experiences, missed windows that don't ever come back. Not because they made a single bad decision, but because they never stepped back to question the pattern that was emerging. There's always another project, another goal, another reason to delay, rest, or connection. And over time, work can quietly become an identity instead of a tool. The regret isn't about effort. It's about opportunity cost. Time that could have gone toward relationships, health, curiosity, or joy gets traded away without much thought. A meaningful retirement doesn't happen automatically when work stops. It happens when time is intentionally reclaimed. Another deep regret that people express is wishing they had the courage to say what they truly felt. Many spent their lives suppressing emotions to keep peace, avoid conflict, or maintain approval. Sometimes it's even not saying how you really feel in a relationship. Sometimes it's not pursuing something that you care about because it might create tension or uncertainty. And over time, that pattern becomes normal, even though it slowly disconnects you from who you actually are. On the surface, this looks like maturity. Over time, it often turns into resentment and even exhaustion. Living this way is draining, constantly editing yourself to fit expectations. It limits growth and connection. When people look back, they realize that the energy spent holding things in often kept them from becoming who they're capable of being. Retirement creates space, but only if you allow yourself to step into it honestly. If you're looking for even more clarity, that's what See the Forest Delete is for. This is where I go deeper, speak more directly, and focus on what actually matters without worrying about headlines, algorithms, or clickbait. At See the Forest Delete, you'll get access to members-only videos that aren't on the public channel. The Members Elite tier is just $9.99 a month. Hit the join button to enter. I'll see you on the other side. And now back to the video. Regret number 4. Well, people instinctively know relationships matter, yet they're often the first thing that gets neglected. Not because they're unimportant, but because they're rarely urgent. Work deadlines feel immediate. Responsibilities, they demand attention. Friendships quietly wait until too much time passes. You assume you'll reconnect at some point, that there will be time later. But then life keeps moving. People move, priorities shift, and those relationships become harder to rebuild than expected. I've had people tell me they didn't realize how much they valued certain friendships until they were already gone. And at the end of life, many people realize how much that they miss those old friendships and meaningful connections that slowly slipped away. Retirement offers something rare: time. But time alone doesn't rebuild relationships, intention does. A fulfilling retirement isn't built in isolation, it's built in a community of shared experiences and connection. Now, perhaps the most sobering regret is this. Many people realize too late that happiness was a choice they never fully made. They stayed stuck in routines, thought patterns, or habits that drain their joy instead of cultivating it. And often it's not because they didn't have the opportunity to be happy. It's because they kept postponing it. They were waiting for the next milestone, the next phase, the next sense of certainty. But eventually people realize that happiness isn't something that just shows up later. It's something that has to be practiced and prioritized along the way. Happiness doesn't mean pretending that life is perfect. It means choosing where to focus, what to nurture, and what to let go of. Retirement presents a blank slate, but how it's filled depends entirely on intention. Some people choose curiosity, gratitude, and growth. Others drift into distraction, disengagement, or bitterness without even realizing it. The difference isn't circumstance, it's choice. None of these regrets are about money directly. They're about alignment, about whether time, energy, and resources were used intentionally to support a meaningful life. Money does matter, but only as a tool. Without clarity around what you want life to look like, even the best financial plan falls short. A truly successful retirement isn't measured by account balances alone. It's measured by fulfillment, purpose, connection, and peace. The real purpose of retirement planning isn't about numbers for their own sake. It's about creating the freedom to live deliberately. Tax strategies, investment strategies, and withdrawal strategies only matter if they're supporting a bigger vision. If you don't define that vision first, no amount of money can compensate for it later. The good news is this: regret is optional. Awareness now creates freedom later. If you want to avoid these regrets, it's not about working harder or saving more at this point. It's about making better decisions with what you've already built. And many people get this part wrong. So in this next video, I'll walk you through the key decision framework that can make the biggest difference. See you there.